Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Backlog Banter. My name is Tucker Hazel, and this is my nervous co-host, Abram Buhner. And today we're going to be talking about the games that we've been playing this past week, as well as some of the games that our members of our community have been as well. But if you want to join that community, said community, you can join the Discord, link in the description. And if you want to just make me happy on a very personal level, you can subscribe to Backlog Banter. You can like the channel, you can like the bell, you can ring the button, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, here's what I want to do. I want to put out a call to action to the
Whoa,
viewer,
that
to this
you,
viewer
you
right
do
here.
that. You do that in essays. A call to action.
That's a great point.
That's how you end an essay.
We're
So should you do it
recording
at the
this.
end of the video?
No, because it's important to front load. We're
Okay,
recording
great.
this on Wednesday. This video goes up on Friday. As of right now, we have what 697 subscribers. You said
697 subscribers.
so. If you're watching right now, either we're right below 700 or we're right above it. So if you want to help us reach that goal, subscribe. And if you want to make sure that the bots don't get cold and we drop back below 700, if we're like at like 702, you should also subscribe.
Yeah,
because here's the thing.
I think just regardless, subscribe.
Yeah, but people need a motivation. They
That's a
need a
great
motivator.
point. That's a great point. They see us at like 691 and they're like, they're fine. They don't need me. But if I'm at 697, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, but we'll probably hit 700 this weekend. I also think that
it's Pokemon weekend.
That's true. The 6 subscriber bump that we've received today was also probably from me promoting the fact that we're close to 700. So I would.
Oh, then maybe I should promote it.
Oh, that would be crazy if you promoted Backlog Banter. Imagine that. Oh, holy shit, that's fucking cold day in hell.
When I promote Backlog Banter, we lose traction.
That's a great point.
Tucker, I think I have 4 games to talk about today.
I think I'm over that. I'm over you. I have more than that.
Yes, you're on top today as usual.
As usual.
So you should go first.
I should, because I'm not only just talking about the games that I've been playing this week, but I'm doing a little bit of catch up because I played so much in that big boy week that we spent last week talking about for an hour and a half that I've still got overflow.
Tucker takes the wheel, I believe the episode is called.
Tucker will take the wheel for a good amount of this episode. I mean, a pretty normal amount this week.
Sure.
But one of the first overflow games was a game that I did complete over a week ago at this point. But Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus is not the first time that I've talked about this game on here, but it's the first time that I've beaten this game. I have played the first 2/3 of this game 4 times in my life now, including the time that I beat it. Because I've had it on PS2, I've started it on PS2 3 different times and just never pushed through to the end. It's not a particularly long game. Probably took me 6 hours to play in my completionary run through here. But I picked the game up on my PS Vita in the Sly collection for Vita, and I was like, you know what? I need to push through this and just finish the game because I do enjoy the game as we'll get into. And I did, but I gave myself the benefit of the doubt to do is turn off my brain and go on autopilot for like the first 2/3. So I've seen all this shit before. I know it's fucking gonna happen. I know all these level layouts. So I just turned off my brain and played through it, like listen to podcasts and stuff, which is actually going to be a trend as we go through the games today. But then I ended up finishing the game, and yeah, it's a great game. I'm really happy that I now have completed it finally, so I don't have to think about that last third of Sly Cooper 1 that I haven't finished. I've now finished it, believe it or not. And I'm very excited to see where the rest of the series goes, because while I think this is a great game from almost any metric, I think it has some growing pain, some pains that could use some growing.
So a growing pain.
Yeah, no, but I feel like growing pains come from growth. Like this exists. It hasn't grown yet.
So Sly 2 would have growing pains.
Yes.
Sly 3 would just have like arthritis.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's so old.
Now, Tucker,
3.
It's
ancient.
Tucker, I have a leading question for you. How did it run on PlayStation Vita?
Well, here's the thing. It didn't run as well as I would want it to.
Sure.
I had a lot more slowdown and like mushiness to the movement than I remembered having on the PS2 version. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily accurate. It might not just have been also kind of slow on the PS2 as well. I might be misremembering because I can't really find anyone else saying that there's a ton of slowdown going on. But I also adapted to it pretty quickly. It was really just the first 30 minutes where I'm like, man, this feels kind of mushy. Like I'm moving slightly slower than I would want to. And the response time is just slightly off. But when you adapt to something like that, the frame rate is consistent. There wasn't a ton of like slowdown moments. So I adapted to that, and it became pretty much a non-issue. Though it was pretty frustrating to start with.
Yeah, I've got like, here's the thing with the PS2 era.
Sure.
I have this like, there's just like this fucking malaise in my mind over the platformers I played. Because I played a lot of mascot games during the PS2 era.
Some mustard.
Yeah, I like a little bit of malaise on my hamburger personally. Yeah. But I remember playing a Neopets game. I remember playing a Ratchet and Clank game. And I remember playing a Sly Cooper game. And I played a lot of
these are games you owned?
Yes, for sure. Gun to my head, I couldn't tell you which was which. Sure. But I do remember playing Sly Cooper and enjoying Sly Cooper enough to where I bought the fourth game. Yeah, Thieves in Time, which is a Sanzaro one, that sort of reboot. And I enjoyed it. Sly is always a franchise that I think returning to. It's probably the mascot platformer of that 6th gen era that I'd be most interested in, because I love those characters. I love that it's a little bit more open, a little bit more like more gameplay variety in terms of stealth, in terms of straight platforming action.
Yeah.
So I wanna get when Spartacus disappoints us.
When Spartacus disappoints us, but presumably has the Sly collection on PS3 as part of its library, then yes, or just. I assume they would go that direction instead of having the single versions of the PS2 versions. Unclear what it's going to be, first of all.
Yeah. Apparently, it's any day now, by the way. Spartacus just released any day. Something's going to just fucking happen. People are really real convinced about that, but I don't think it's happening. I think we're a while away from that. But will Sly Cooper, you know what it gets? It gets the Slimalicious popcorn seal of approval for me.
What the fuck is Slimalicious?
I don't know.
Where'd you get that?
I don't know. This is not my regular filming location. If
I recognize, yeah.
This is Jean's room, so I'm just picking up things off her desk like this.
No, don't show that.
What do you think about this little hot rod there? You look like
I've seen those guys before. Little wiggly head armadillo. Yeah. But Sly 1 is a very good game. It's pretty obvious what it is. It's a 6th gen, right? 6th.
Yes.
Am I correct? Okay, I'm bad with that. A 6th gen action platformer, some light combat, some jumping around in levels, a nice clean art style. I like the characters, like you were saying. But I've talked about all this before, because my impressions of when I have played the PS2 game multiple times, they still hold true. The game is very consistent all the way throughout. My thoughts didn't change drastically having finished it. However, I do think in retrospect, the pains that I was talking about are the fact that they try for a variety here that doesn't really hit. Every 4th level, I would say, is not platforming. It's you have to ride around on a little air scooter and run over fish that turn into oil so you can put flames on a candle. You have to drive. Murray drives a fucking car twice in this game, and those levels are categorically terrible. These racing levels, the physics do not work. The bots are way better than you. Though I was pulling out my fucking hair playing this level. And then there's also ones where you have to like protect big dumb fucking Murray as he's like sneaking along, but he's big and dumb, so people are running up on him, so you have to snipe them, and those aren't as fun. Like, it's just the ones where they try to do something different. I appreciate the idea, I appreciate the sentiment, but the game is not designed for those, and those are just categorically less fun to do. So they just, presumably this kind of variety still sticks around the rest of the franchise, and it'll be more polished, which I'm very excited for.
Yeah, that's a very big 6th generation energy of what if our game just had a lot of shit in it that's not what people wanted to play in the first place.
Yeah.
And largely that's gone. Insomniac still kind of carries that forward with like the rip apart stuff, but at least that's a little bit more polished. And you just play a mascot platform, you're like, now we're gonna go grocery shopping for a level or something. So I also had the Over the Hedge game.
That's one thing I pride myself on. I almost entirely, sans like maybe one exception, avoided licensed games completely when I was a child. I do not have any crappy licensed games on the Wii, on the DS. I didn't even have a PS2 to have crappy licensed games on. So I'm so happy, and I pride myself on being someone who's never infected by that curse.
I had a lot of them. I remember one of the finest days of young Abram Biener's life. My dad took me to see Ratatouille. After Ratatouille, we went to Best Buy, and he bought me the Star Wars original trilogy on DVD and the Ratatouille PS2 game.
The Ratatouille game, which classically is one of the most ported video games of all time.
Yes.
It's on every system of that generation and some before and after.
Yeah, because it's fucking Remy. You gotta be up on Remy's exploits. But Tucker, I think people should also be up on my exploits. So I should share one of my games.
Okay, I'll allow it.
I'm going to share the one that I played the least of because I only hopped into it today. And I'm not going to say that I was looking for a game to play during my Zoom classes, but it's possible.
You'll apply it.
I'll apply it. I'm not above a little implication, right? And so the game I hopped into, Tucker, because we're in a weird period of time right now. We're in the final stretch before Legends Arceus,
yes,
where there is not time to play Mass Effect. There's not time to play.
Most certainly not.
There's not time to play really much anything, especially with classes starting. So I needed something that fits this period of time.
Yeah.
What I hopped into, Tucker, is a little game called Sonic Mania.
Oh, okay. A game that you finished before.
Yes. I played it back in 2017. Loved Sonic Mania. Yeah, and haven't played it since. And I don't know, because here's the thing, Tucker. I got the OLED.
Tell me the thing.
I've had this fascination with hopping back into older games on the OLED and just looking at them. And let me tell you something. Sonic Mania looks fucking beautiful on the Switch OLED.
That's a very colorful game, so I can imagine the contrast really helps.
Yeah, I mean, especially, and there's amazing art direction, period. So the game always popped, but when it's propped up in front of your laptop, and you're really close to it, right? Hypothetically, in Minecraft, the game looks very pretty. But I'm about halfway through it so far.
Okay.
In returning to it, I like it a lot. It's also kind of reminding me why I think 2D Sonic ends up in this weird place where it's really fun, but then you kind of stop playing the game. The game kind of plays itself until Sonic runs off of a ledge, and then you're somewhere you didn't want to be.
Yeah.
I like there's a clear strength the way Sonic is designed, in the sense of you go on this fucking horse shit circuitous path as you're falling off platforms and still ending up back at the goal.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like there's, when I'm playing this time, at least, it's like a push pull between forward progress and backward progress. It doesn't feel as satisfying as before.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like, you know, as though I'm a young kitten and Sonic Mania is my mother cat grabbing me by the scruff of my neck. I'm kind of being led along through these stages, right?
Sure.
Which has a fun to it. It's almost like the QTE platform.
There's sort of a fun to it.
Sort of a fun to Sonic the Hedgehog. No, but I find myself a little bit less compelled by that 2D formula as I was before.
Yeah.
But I want to run through it and finish it before I really come down on how I feel about this game, period.
Sure. Yeah. It's you know, it's kind of actually heartwarming for me to hear you say that, because as I said, I think Sonic Mania is a very good game. I enjoyed the crap out of it. It's the only Sonic game I've ever bothered to finish, which is saying something. But I agree with you. And frankly, I've always found the Sonic formula, the platforming formula that Sonic has always followed, to not be that compelling. There is this really weird tension between, okay, I would like to be going fast all the time, because that's when the game is at its most unique. That's when it's at its best. Obviously, that's when Sonic is doing his Soniciest thing. However, the levels are designed for that, and naturally so. There needs to be some ebb and flow. But I don't think they're that fun when you're not going that fast. When you're trying to just find the next where to go on this giant map with all these bits and bobs, no real clear, coherent way through the level, because you're supposed to choose your own path, but then there are obviously some paths that are better than others. Like there's attention to it that I find myself just sitting there when I'm not going fast, be like, yeah, this platforming just isn't as satisfying as things that are more clearly designed for jumping through levels. Like Sonic's jump isn't that satisfying. His combat isn't that satisfying. But then you go fast, like,
Yeah, he lives and dies by momentum, and I get that you have to vary that momentum, but
Yeah.
sometimes it just swings back and forth in a way that I feel like I'm just losing myself in the game.
Mhm.
Especially because I feel like people forget Sonic is a one-button platformer.
Yeah.
Like it was a big meme in Balan Wonderworld, right? But I think people forget that Sonic does it too. And of course, Yuji Naka involved there, so it makes sense. But all four of the space buttons just jump. Sonic is very
Mhm.
simple. It really is about the stage and the momentum and the speed, opposed to really Sonic himself in
Yeah.
some instances on a more gameplay level. And I find that fun. I just don't know if I find it as fun as I used to. So
Mhm.
I'll report back next week because I got more class
Sure.
tomorrow.
Yeah. I think what reminds me of my experience um with Sonic Mania is, and the things that stick out in my mind are the moments where it's not Sonic gameplay. It's
Yeah.
it's those boss fights, it's the intros to
Yeah.
stages, it's seeing the characters do their little animations together, because obviously the game is gorgeous, the levels are
Yes.
creative, the characters
Yes.
are very expressive, the boss fights are extravagant and wacky. But while I like to look at the levels, I don't know how much fun I actually have playing through them. And I actually remember Lava Reef Zone, maybe one of those fucking dumb stages in this game I had a really hard time with for whatever reason, and I
Yeah.
just got really frustrated by it, especially the boss of that world, uh, which is like, that's just a negative aspect of that game. But apparently it wasn't that hard. I'm just an idiot, so who knows?
Yeah, I will say last thing. It makes me want. One time, next time I'm seeing you in person, I think we should go out on the town and shake our ass to the Sonic Mania soundtrack because that's a great soundtrack.
God, and this is a criticism of the game, but it's also a
Yeah.
compliment. The game is all downhill because that opening cutscene is the best part of
Mhm.
the game, bar fucking none. The
Yeah, on the
music, the
on the
animation,
biplane.
oh my fucking
Yeah.
god, I love it so much. But then I have to play the game, which I
Now
like. I
I think
like the game.
now I think I'm probably higher on Sonic's gameplay than you are because I at bare minimum like Sonic.
I know.
I see. I'm not part of the coalition of Sonic was never good.
Sure.
I consider
I
myself to
don't
be an
think it was
average
never
Sonic
good.
enjoyer.
Well,
Just end the sentence
maybe
there.
I do think that.
No,
Interesting. I'll have to wrestle with this. I'll come
I
back
think
next week having wrestled, and we'll discuss further.
I used to be a big Sonic is like classic Sonic is better than classic Mario type of guy.
Mhm.
And I think where I've settled now is that classic Sonic is more interesting than classic Mario, but classic
Sure.
Mario plays better.
Yeah, that's certainly reasonable. Yeah.
Because Sonic the Hedgehog is a better character than Mario, and I'll die
Sure.
on that hill.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. Well, yeah, no, I don't. Well, all right. Let's move on to the other game that's sort of my last pick me up of the last 2 weeks. Is the Medium. Bloober
Oh,
Team's The Medium, released for Xbox One and subsequently PS5 later on. Sort of pushed as, hey, this is taking advantage of next gen hardware, showing two areas at once, loading them in real time and fluidly transitioning between the two of them, because you play as this character Marianne, who has a otherworldly ability to transition to the spirit realm and solve puzzles between said things, and having them both
right.
showing at the same time. And they're controlling normal Marianne and spirit realm Marianne, and they both have different layouts, so you have to sort of deal with that. And this game it does that. The thing that this game's hat is held on, showing two areas at once, having them be different layouts, having them be different art styles, and having it flow very naturally, is certainly what it's strongest at. It is a very cool concept. It definitely takes advantage of the hardware. But I think that's kind of the only thing this game really has going for it.
Did you
Because
beat this Hot Rod?
no, I got like 60% of the way through
Yeah,
it.
sure.
But at a certain point, the puzzles become kind of repetitive, as I'll get
Yeah.
to. And what really bummed me out is just I didn't find the world in Marianne as compelling as it could have been. I mean, this is
Okay.
a dual world narrative. It's a mystery of Marianne doesn't quite know who she is, and she's sent to she's in Poland, and she's sent to a decaying hotel where I think families of like a nuclear testing facility lived, but now it's completely abandoned and floors are bombed out and stuff like that. And she's piecing together what happened there, and she can see some of the people who died there. She's helping them move on to fucking heaven, I presume. I don't know, or hell, probably. Those Polish fuckers. But Marianne is kind of just generic, mildly quippy, mildly edgy protagonist. She's got a charm to her. She's like really good with kids, which is, you know, something you don't see that often in games. But I don't know. I think this game exists only to have that interesting concept. But even then, the fact that it runs well doesn't mean that the puzzles are particularly compelling or that it's actually used to its fullest degree.
Here's the thing about the medium. Like, who cares? This kind of my bottom line about the medium, right?
I thought I might.
Well, because here's the thing. It was the series exclusive. For a long time, it was the only game actually exclusive to that platform. But like, I didn't give a hoot. I downloaded it to my system. But as you were saying, it's very, because we talked about this game like fucking a year time ago now. It's very like archetypically old horror. Which is kind of neat. But if I want a game in that vein, I'm just going to go play the classic survival horror games I never actually played. Or I want something that's kind of like looking forward, like a Resident Evil 2 remake or an RE8 or something. So I don't know. Bloober Team apparently the one that was given the Silent Hill license. So
yeah, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what they do with more time and money, because I mean, this is made just by them. I don't think it was published by any huge group or anything like that. So
did Xbox not publish this game?
No, they didn't. Which I assumed that they did, but
I thought they did too.
But they didn't, and now it's on PlayStation as well. I think it just had exclusivity for 8 months or whatever. But what you mentioned and what is my biggest attachment from this game is that it is old style horror in that it's locked camera angles. This is, you enter a hallway, camera is in the corner of the hallway and you have no control over it, and you move in this environment and things can jump out at you or objects can be hidden because the camera can't go anywhere. And there is an idea to that I certainly understand. However, it feels very archaic. It's very awkward for someone, frankly, of my age who didn't grow up playing those games. I'm not adapted to that. I'm adapted to being able to look where I want and explore an environment at my own pace. It's very awkward to be jarred into these different camera angles and have things hidden from me because of that, and have, if I want to get around this thing, I have to move a little bit weird because I'm not used to not being able to control the camera. And you can go really close to the camera, or you can be really fucking far away and not really be able to see yourself. And I found that very frustrating. And I can understand people who grew up with it wanting to go back to that because that's what they enjoy the most. But I do think that there is a freedom, but I think a necessary freedom that the industry has moved forward to. Like, it's moved past the need for this to be the only way for you to feel limited in your control.
Society has moved beyond the need for fixed camera angles.
Yes, most certainly. Yes.
What's weird about it is like it was like Resident Evil 1, great example. Like, camera control was not standardized during fifth generation, and it really even wasn't that standardized during sixth generation. The GameCube C stick is not really meant to be a second analog stick, right? No. So it was perfectly sensible in fifth gen. I think it became less sensible in sixth, but like Capcom with Onimusha and Resident Evil remaking things were still in that zone. But by today, I don't think that fixed camera provides a whole lot. And it makes me wonder if like that was a design concession to make it easier to render the two worlds simultaneously.
That's certainly possible. Though I would say this game isn't actually as graphically impressive as I assumed that it would be.
Yeah.
The fact is that you're impressed by it loading two areas simultaneously, not because it's incredibly detailed. Frankly, Marian's facial animation is actually kind of poor. It's totally fine, but I would have expected this from like an early PS4 game or something like that. So the fact that it isn't blowing me away visually means that I think they could probably have eked a little more out of it.
Yeah.
And also you can see what they're going for. They're trying to do Resident Evil Silent Hill again. Like, people like those games because they did these certain things. let's appeal to that audience. It was a very clear design decision.
Yeah, and like the Wii U ran Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge twice on the gamepad and the TV on November 12th, 2012, you know?
What? Why do you know anything about the Wii U version of that game?
Why do you know anything about the other versions that were on the Wii?
I don't.
I think it was a Wii U exclusive, right? Until it was ported off of Wii U for that Master
Couldn't
Collection.
tell you. Why the fuck would I know?
You don't know about the third game in the Ninja Gaiden series?
In the Ninja Gaiden reboot series? No, I fucking don't. Oh, Christ.
All right. Tactically speaking, do I go again now or do you have to go again?
No,
again. I go again? Whew, I wasn't ready for that.
Then you should have just told me to go next.
No. You know what? You took the stick. I will.
Oh yeah, by the way, I'm releasing the wheel. I'm done
Thank
with the big Tucker fucking day off week.
The Tucker day off week, sure.
Yeah.
But Tucker, let's travel to a place we all want to go, Dubai, and let's talk about something we don't want to participate in, and that's war.
Nope.
And let's talk about a game I played last week, and that's Spec Ops: The Line.
Yeah, interesting transition there.
Spec Ops: The Line is a little third-person shooter from Jaeger and published by 2K. And this is a game, Tucker, that you might say has acquired a reputation in the industry. And by in the industry, sure. I mean mostly from Colin Moriarty and Chris Reagan.
Is he are they the biggest proponents of it?
They are also like the only gaming content I listen to. So
your sample size is slightly skewed then.
The point is, I've heard about Spec Ops: The Line a lot.
Sure, yeah,
because it kind of has the reputation for being that more like mature and reflective military shooter, sort of
in an era where, believe it or not, lots of military shooters.
Yes,
this is when Call of Duty and Battlefield were at their biggest, and they were both doing modern military stuff at the time.
Yeah, and it's sort of almost obtained the reputation for being that sort of anti-war game, the way we have plenty of that in cinema, as we've talked about on Quest for the Bestest, the internet's premier Oscars show.
Yeah.
But so I finally played it, and I think that it never could have lived up to what was in my head.
Sure.
I think that's the first thing.
That's fair.
However, it came really fucking close.
Oh, okay, interesting.
So here's the thing about Spec Ops: The Line. I don't have a strong opinion on it right now. I feel like I need a second playthrough for it, because effectively, and I don't want to spoil the game, because if you've made it this far without being spoiled, just go play it. Yeah, mostly talking to my co-host. I don't really give a hoot about the audience in this instance, because they can click away, but he can't click out of our recording session.
Well, I could. Wouldn't be productive.
That's a great point.
Wouldn't make this a very good episode.
Yes. Let's just say on the high level that this is a game that is incredibly critical of both American military imperialism,
sure.
But also the player's relationship to the military shooter. And I actually, the developer says as much, because I was reading up a little bit, some interviews and things after the fact about what they were going for with the game.
Is this something you are writing articles for?
I'm not writing the articles, unfortunately. But I just for my own interest, because the game at its core revolves around an unreliable narrator. So I'm going to say no more than that.
Yeah.
Anti-war, questioning the relationship of the player to the game world itself, centered on an unreliable narrator. Now, on the surface, it is a Gears of War style third-person shooter.
Sure.
And it apes basically all of its gameplay conventions from Gears, right?
Sure.
And because of that, it feels like it's 7th generation cover shooter, which is yeah. But what I mean to say is, like, you can play Uncharted.
Yeah.
You play Uncharted 3, and Uncharted 3 feels a little bit different and moves a little bit differently, right? But this feels like the direct step forward after Gears of War. So because of that, it feels mechanically dated.
Yeah.
Combat still feels good. Traversal feels a little bit less good. I think movement and getting in and out of cover is where the game kind of falters, because it's amazing sound design.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Obviously, I haven't played the game, but I've played enough cover shooters to where getting in and out of cover is just jarring and wonky and doesn't feel the way you want it to. Yeah. That I can imagine.
Yeah. And so in Spec Ops has those issues. when you're actually down the barrel, the guns feel great. They sound great. And there's a simple but effective squad system there also. But really,
my door just fucking opened itself. Spec Ops is coming to haunt me.
Spec Ops.
Mr. Spec Ops.
The line is coming for you. But really, the game lives and dies by its narrative, because the narrative is what contextualizes the otherwise traditional blockbuster third-person shooting action. And it's quite harrowing. There is a particular sequence where you use a white phosphorus, which for people who aren't Geneva Conventions nerds might not know that is a banned substance in real-world warfare. So the game has no issue pushing that boundary. And I had it built up to my head to where I didn't think it would reach the boundary I thought it would, but it did.
Sure. So, and is that a good thing?
Yes, the game is as visceral as I thought it needed to be to tell its narrative.
Sure, good.
I think my problem, though, is that the game clicks at the end. You understand what the game is doing when it finishes. And because of that...
You mean story-wise or mechanically?
Story-wise, yeah. I don't really want to spoil it, but it really it's anti-war perspectives, and the ways that it uses mechanics to convey those really are unlocked by the final chapter.
Sure. And so because understanding wise, you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And because of that, I feel like I missed a lot of the nuance, especially that after reading about the game and the sort of ways that they would place visual cues in structure encounters in the ways that fed into the unreliability of your protagonist. That's all stuff I couldn't recognize because I was in the mode.
Twist yet.
Yeah, I was in the mode of this is a more traditional, a more serious, but more still, albeit traditional shooter narrative, but it isn't. So because of that, it's on the short list of games for me to replay in a couple months when it's still fresh in my head. So I feel like I can carry the context of my first playthrough into my second. But I feel like I need that to really come to terms with whether or not I think this game is good and sort of conceptually very interesting, or genuinely quite excellent.
Yeah. So that's a really interesting balance to strike, because from what I can piece together of the bare threads that I know about this game, the way that you're circuitously trying to describe it to me, I can understand what could be missing, but what was attempted. And I kind of maybe, obviously from the outside, see that as a good thing of it feeling like a totally serviceable third-person military shooter, but then you being able to reflect on that in an interesting way. I find that to be compelling, but I also think that I think you're going to come back to this game and think it's excellent. Frankly, I think the idea of being able to understand that, obviously something I can't do as I'm not familiar with the game yet is something I won't be able to test to at the time. But my one question is, knowing your experience, knowing that there is something that could have helped you understand it a little better now that you've completed the game, is there anything non-spoilery that you can communicate to me that might help me pick up on that a little more, so I'm able to understand it better? Because I would like to play this game. I'd like to be able to talk about it, but I'm not the kind of person to replay it 4 months from now. So I kind of want to the best of my ability, get that on ground zero if I can.
Yeah, I don't think there is. I think you have to make the decision that either you let the ending hit you and then you just forego nuance and return to it if you want to, but just carry the strength of the twist by itself.
Sure.
Or you read some interviews and learn about
I'm not above.
Yeah. Which will spoil the game for you, but might give you a more like analytical appreciation for its construction at the cost of the sort of gut level emotional reaction of understanding where you were led afoul by your own protagonist.
Okay, yeah, well, the fact that I'm not spoiled, I haven't been spoiled at all. I have no unreliable narrator is to the extent of my knowledge to this game. And that the flag on the menu changes through the course of the game. That's like the one thing I knew about this game before you talking to me about it. I won't spoil myself. Frankly, I think going in as blind as I can is going to be the most interesting, because then I'll be able to be hit by that, like the way the designers intended you to be.
Yeah, and also I didn't notice the flag changing because I beat the game in 2 sittings. It's really short. It's quite doable. I'd say my playthrough is probably within 4 hours in total. So even 2 playthroughs is remarkably short.
That's a great point.
AAA games go. So you know,
you can't. Well, actually, you can do that to me 2 days before Arceus comes out because this game isn't very long.
I can do that to you, yes.
You can, and you have.
What are you gonna do tomorrow? Fucking.
Actually, I don't. So we don't have class tomorrow because one of our film classes, the professor does this really fucking strange thing where he sets us up at the beginning of the class first week, and then he's like, "I'm splitting you into 2 groups, and Group A only going to come on Tuesdays, Group B only going to come on Thursdays." So I don't have class Thursday mornings now. Well, it actually alternates, so I won't have class next Tuesday morning either. But then it's a fucking shit show. But we're gonna watch Peacemaker episode 5 tomorrow morning, which I'm very excited about. And I might as well start this fucking game. If I can play through it before I get Legends Arceus in my hands at 10 a.m. on Friday morning.
Yeah, I think everybody needs a little bit of harrowing and too real commentary about the way that our government sends us to do atrocities in the Middle East. That sounds like a great way to prepare for Pokemon, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know what else what else is a great way to prepare for Pokemon? Was to play the PS4's premier exclusive, which of course is Knack, the game that could not run on the PS3 because it was just too technically impressive, and it was going to capture the hearts and minds of children across the fucking globe.
Now, be careful what you say here, because this is both Video Game Donkeys and Mark Cerny's baby that you're about to talk about.
Yeah, but if you've ever seen Mark Cerny talk about Knack, he clearly does not give a fuck about Knack. And guess what? Neither do I. And guess what? Only, as far as I can tell, one person on YouTube actually thinks this is a reasonably designed game. I watched a video where a guy was reviewing it positively, which I pretty fundamentally disagree with. Knack is one of the least interestingly designed games I've ever played in my entire life from every single perspective.
Okay.
The only thing this game has going for it is that Knack is a pretty interestingly designed character. Like, I think that's hard to deny. You look at Knack and you're like, what the fuck were they smoking? Who came up with that?
Knack has a lot of design. I'll say that much.
He has the most design, yeah. Is it good design? I say interestingly designed, not good, not well designed, because what a weird fucking character. But so what do you know about Knack from a gameplay perspective, from a story perspective, anything?
I know that it's kind of a platformer with
the phrase is de-emphasize jumping.
Right. I know he doesn't really do a lot of jumping. I'm pretty sure Knack is like a government weapon. That could be wrong, but I don't care. But Tucker, here's the bottom line. I don't care to find out.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about Knack.
I cared enough to find out because this is a fascinating part of the PS4's history. The fact that this was proposed and sold as, we're Sony, we make mature games, but we also have something for the kiddie pies. And they're just going to fucking love this, ain't they? And it doesn't have that appeal to it because Knack he's not a charming character. He is the kind of character that exists to say 1 or 2 quips, but then be the muscle to progress the story forward. And that's about it.
Yeah. Here's the thing about Knack, though, because you make a good point here. They needed a new mascot, right?
Yes.
Because Sackboy had kind of run its course. They had Sackboy during PS3 generation.
Well,
of course,
but then Little Big Planet 3 came out and was a bigger deal and better game than Knack. So,
yeah, but
then Knack came back.
Well, that's
then Sackboy came back.
But Knack died when Astro was created. I think that
great point,
because Astrobot Rescue Mission 2018 game. Mm-hmm. I think that Mark Cerny, the Mark Cerny Power Hour could not sustain the force that was Astro, which is just a better mascot than Knack.
I agree 100%. So Knack, you as you said, he's a weapon. He's a Knack. What are you gonna describe fucking Knack as? Is a goblin thing? No, he's not really. It's fucking Knack.
He's a bunch of shapes.
He's a collection of shapes known as relics. That is being studied by a group of professors, and then they are approached by. You can't say the U.S. government because it's very clearly nowhere near our reality. But they're approached by the military to say, "Hey, humanity is being attacked. This is a fucking years-long war. They're being attacked by the goblins. This is not a joke. The goblin race and humanity have been in a fucking decades-long feud. and human towns are being raided by goblins. Our relics are being stolen. We need something to help us fight back. And this doctor, whose name is Dr. Vargas, but they never refer to the Vargas part. They just call him Doctor for the entire time.
Okay.
Even his wife calls him Doctor in like their private scenes together, which is very awkward. His nephew calls him Doctor. It's a really fucking.
Is that a kink? Is it explored?
Maybe. Dr. Vargas says, "Hey, I've got this knack over here. Let me show you my knack." And he's gonna be a real fucking help against this goblin army. And you know what? He is. Knack is strong and can grow in size and punch things real good. But that's about all that Knack can do, because when you say there's de-emphasized jumping, that does not mean there's not a lot of jumping in this game. Because one of my biggest problems with this game, something I've actually never heard anyone talk about, is how terrible the jump is. It is that your jump, Knack's normal jump, is not high enough to clear things. You have to double jump to get up on top of platforms, which is very strange. You are constantly hitting jump in this game because the jumping is de-emphasized, meaning there's not platforming segments, which is fine. You know, games don't need platforming segments, but that puts the onus on the combat of this game, which is better than the jumping, but not much more, because Knack has a 3-hit combo.
That's pretty cool.
That's your entire combat arsenal, except for you have these ultimate moves you can unlock every once in a while by collecting enough fucking energy from these crystals in the environment. But your entire moveset is a 3-hit combo, and if you do a double jump and hit the attack button, you do like sort of a ground pound thing, like a homing fucking Sonic the Hedgehog spinball attack. So that's what the gameplay focuses on. And guess what? It doesn't go anywhere. The entire game is walking through hallways, coming to an area with a bunch of enemies in it. By a bunch, I mean like 3 or 4 max. And then you finish them and you do it again for 8 hours, which I did.
For 8 hours?
For 8 fucking hours. Yeah.
If you'd asked me how long Knack was, I'd say it's maybe 4 hours.
Yeah. No. And 8 is on the lower side.
No. Does it
HLTV
justify
has a 10 and 5.
Does it justify that runtime?
Story-wise, environmentally, mechanical progression, no. What the fuck do you think? No, these are some of the lamest environments I've ever had the displeasure of exploring. Because as I said, they're all hallways pocketed with areas to fight enemies in. The structure I would compare to anal beads. Just a thin area and then a wide area and a thin area and a wide area and a thin area and a wide area. You know.
And the enemy race are the goblins.
Yeah, so you're fighting goblins for the first part of it, but then there is another scientist who has been creating a robot army to fight against the goblins. But oh boy, is he the most obvious twist villain I've ever seen in my fucking life. He's so obviously like fucking rubbing his hands in the background of the opening scene. You're like, that guy's gonna be the antagonist of the game, isn't he? Guess what? He is. So you don't only fight goblins, you fight his robots as well, and you fight his lackeys, his fucking grunts. So there's visually enemy variety of like 3 kinds, and then like some subsects of small goblin, large robot, that kind of thing. But there's only a couple enemy types throughout the entire game.
I think Knack is a great example of how more people need to realize that kids aren't stupid.
Yes, I agree.
Like you can make a game that's clearly angled at kids without insulting them, right?
Yeah, no, yes.
And you can make an experience that scales.
Mm-hmm.
Like Mario 64 scaled. I think part of the reason the game is quite foundational is because it wasn't just
I noticed that you avoided saying masterpiece.
let's just glaze past that. But adults could play Mario 64 and be enamored with it, right? I think even Sackboy and Astro do very similar things. Sure. But Knack always struck me as the game that's designed for the dumb child.
Yeah.
And
that puts a lot of pressure on the adults who have played it to be the ones to be like, no, hey, don't do this. If I was a kid, I would fucking hate this. And God rest his soul, Jared Petty, the man
He's alive, by the way.
Yeah, he's totally fine. He had to write the guide for this game. He played 80 hours of knack. I've never felt so sorry for an individual in my entire life. What a fucking hero. Because I didn't need the guide, believe it or not. Knack, not a very complicated game. I never got stuck. But I respect that it exists. Someone had to do the fucking work.
So you're gonna play Knack too?
Yeah, probably. I'm a fucking sick, twisted bastard. But I'd be interested to see how it progresses, because it probably is a better game than Knack, not by a magnificent magnitude, but
I've heard that Knack 2 is an okay game.
And I would love to experience that, frankly.
Yeah, they found a bar of quality.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a very, very peculiar game. But there's still one element that I haven't talked about that is probably the most peculiar element of this entire game. Because you think, okay, they're making a game for kids. It's simple combat, simple jumping, bare bones story, terrible animation in the cutscenes.
Not a surprise to me.
Terribly designed. The environment's very boring, all this stuff. Yeah, it makes sense for a cheap, rushed, get this in the hands of the kids game. But one element of it that no one really talks about, that seems very disconnected from all of this, is the random loot system that Knack has.
Loot.
Because throughout the game, you'll be exploring your anal beads environment, and there'll be a wall on the wall that is, hey, I bet you I could punch through this wall because it's kind of cracked. So you punch through the wall, and most of the time you'll find just some crystals that give you energy for your super attacks. But occasionally you'll find a staircase that goes down to a little room with a treasure chest in it. And you fucking punch that baby, you punch that sucker open, and it gives you a random piece of loot that feed into upgrades that Knack can have. If you get like 9 pieces of the fucking odometer or whatever, then you'll get a speed upgrade. That's not an actual upgrade in the Knack arsenal, but these things are distributed randomly. There's like 10 different upgrades you can get, but they each have at least 5 to 7 pieces. So you don't get. I only got 1 through the course of my entire playthrough. I only got enough pieces on 1 upgrade to unlock it. But the system is designed in that if you have more friends that have played Knack, you are more likely to get pieces that you want. Because when you open a chest, if you don't want the piece you have, you can choose one of the pieces your friends got. So I have 2 friends on my entire friends list that have ever played Knack, and they only got through the first bit of it. So at the beginning of the game, I was able to choose the pieces that I was like, okay, I want to lead towards this upgrade. So, because maybe it'll actually help this game be slightly more diverse. But I only got 1 of them because after a certain while, my friend stopped popping up when I opened the chest. Oh, and also recording is blocked when you're in the chest rooms, by the way, because I don't want that shit spoiled. Only time in the game recording is blocked on the PS4. But yeah, it's a really peculiar system. It's really strange.
This is more Knack than I ever wanted to know about.
Me too, buddy. But guess what? I have the knowledge and I need to share it.
I really want you to play Knack.
It's like AIDS.
You want to?
I want to spread it. I take that back. But you would like me to play Knack 2, is that what you said?
I would like you to play Knack 2.
Yeah, when I find a copy of Knack 2, I'll play it.
Knack 2. Are
you kidding me? I want Knack 2 physically.
Knack 2, the AIDS of 2017.
Yeah, although I believe came out the same day as Odyssey. Something like that, same week.
Is that true? I thought it was the early 2017 game.
It was officially revealed at E3 of that year.
Oh, can't you play? Isn't there a blue Knack in that game?
I believe, yes. There's co-op. There's co-op in this one as well, which I never did because, believe it or not, though Tanner watched me play a lot of fucking Knack. I was surprised by the amount of time he spent sitting on the couch just watching me play Knack. But there's like, you can play as your co-op partner can play as fucking Robo Knack, who has no story relevance, but it just exists to be a co-op partner, which I never did. Knack, I gave a 3 out of 10. I think it's a categorically awful game from every single respect.
I think that's a fair score.
Yeah. People were surprisingly generous with like 5s and 6s when the game released. I think they were just trying to justify their PS4 purchase with, oh man, Killzone Shadowfall and Knack. What the fuck am I going to go for?
Killzone Shadowfall is supposed to be a little bit of a better game. I played a little bit.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's not knack levels.
Tucker, let's talk about a game that I would give 3 times as many stars.
Hold on. There's one final thing.
God forbid we stop talking about knack.
No. Funny tangent carrying over from when I played the medium. Knack also has a locked camera system.
Yeah.
You go into a hallway and it's like locked at the end of the hallway. It's fucking annoying. I just wanted to mention that. But even an element that makes this game even more antiquated and bullshit than it should be.
Leave no knack stone unturned. I understand. My dad always would tell me that before I leave the house. But Tucker, let's talk about it. It's been too long.
Halo Infinite, probably?
Yeah, it's time to talk about Halo Infinite.
Yep. For approximately 1 week.
Yeah, the reason I was talking about Halo Infinite, Tucker, is because I've been playing a lot of it. Believe it or not. Yeah, Halo Infinite. I'm about to hit 70 hours in Halo Infinite.
Yep.
So still rookie numbers in the eyes of many.
Oh yeah.
But I've been playing a lot of it.
Pussy ass bitch.
A lot of it last week because there was and still is for 1 more day as of the time of you watching this video. Well, no, actually for 3 more days. I don't know how to tell time. I checked my little clock in the corner of my screen there. But there's a new event going on right now. It's called Cyber Showdown. And like the Fracture Tenrai event before, effectively it is a cosmetic event.
Classic.
where there is this one has a 10 level event battle pass that you get for free, and that you can earn a bunch of cyberpunk, like vaguely cyberpunk aesthetic, like you can get like a visor that glows, or you can get like a bubblegum pink Spartan armor skin or things. It's a very basic. The crux of this new event is that it adds new mode, and that game mode is attrition. Now, the way attrition works, it's 4v4 mode. Each team starts with 8 combined lives. You've got a pool of 8 lives. So
I start the round. I use them all up immediately. My team loses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, what happens is once you use up your opponent's bank of lives, then you have to not eliminate them. Yeah, so you run down the 8 lives.
I think that makes sense. Believe it or not, you have to kill your opponents in Halo.
Yeah, but like if the dumbass on your team uses all 8 lives and your really good player dies once at the end there, they can't respawn. So it becomes a game then of trying to revive your teammates, of fighting over the bodies of your opponents, try to stop them from doing the revives or try to get your own revives off.
It's baby's first Counter-Strike.
Well, let's not say that. Let's not use those words, but that's what attrition is.
Yeah.
And attrition is really fun when I'm winning. I think the problem with attrition more than maybe any other mode in this Halo is that in 4v4 Halo is that it is frustrating to be losing, and it really demands a level of teamwork. And ultimately that level of teamwork is as simple as stay by your teammates and shoot the Spartan they're shooting, right?
Yeah.
So you don't need to be on comms to get a good team, but if you have 4 people who do this as soon as the match starts, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
A lot of the times attrition matches become we roll them or they roll us, right?
Yeah.
And that can be kind of frustrating, but when you get into a really good attrition match where it gets down to danger zone, as your AI will yell, and it's down to all lives are removed from both teams and you're fighting last life on everybody, it gets really, really, really fun. I think I prefer this over regular Slayer, which is probably its closest analog, because it still has a more of an objective feel in that sense of trying to get the revives, of trying to work together, right? Opposed to Slayer, it's just fucking go walk around and find people to shoot, right? So I like attrition quite a bit. But I just love Halo Infinite. So it's been a new avenue into the game and given me time to appreciate all kinds of new things. Like my best clip I've gotten in a while is I used my repulsor to knock a guy back onto one of the gravity launchers to fly him back across the map, and I killed him in midair because his weapon didn't have long enough range. Every time I play, I'm finding these new mechanical interactions that I never would have expected, which is just a testament.
I would have expected that one.
Well, yeah, but just think about how
you push someone into the launcher and it launches.
Yeah, but think about how many layers down it has to be. You have to have that piece of equipment. You have to be on this part of the map.
It's an obscure situation to be in, but it's not an unexpected one.
No, but and on a moment-to-moment level, when you play something like when you're playing Call of Duty, you very quickly learn all of the mechanical interactions. Right. Halo Infinite is constantly surprising me with a new way that a piece of equipment will interact with another weapon or another Spartan or just the map in general. And new modes like attrition are just a great way to see that through.
Sure.
I will say though, 343 cannot wait as long as they're waiting between season 1 and 2 as they do between 2 and 3. Because
did season 2 start?
Season 2 has not started yet.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's still a while away.
Sure.
And
yeah, they're is that when they're gonna update, like add co-op or whatever?
They're gonna add co-op, they're gonna add a bunch of
The
stuff.
shit that's missing.
Yeah, but I think the problem that we're starting to run into is that I think the maps are still great, but they're the same maps.
There's
right?
not many of them.
Yeah, so having attrition
in the bit that I've played, I've already seen all the maps.
Right, there's 10 maps in the game, and 3 of them are BTB maps. So if you're playing BTB, you're only on those 3 maps. If you're playing 4v4, you're on the other 7.
Yeah.
So it's time for more maps.
The modes, I certainly agree.
I'd love to see Infection. That's the one I want next. And these have been leaked. We know that they are coming. Infection, Griffball, King of the Hill, some things are coming. But I think we're getting to a place where it's a little bit too slow. That rollout of new content's a little bit too slow. It's not stopping me from playing several times a week because I'm still unlocking a lot of great stuff with the Battle Pass. And they've fixed the EXP system a little bit, and it's easier to actually progress through it. I'm able to customize my Spartan in a way that I really love. And the core gameplay is great, but we need those new maps now. That's the next frontier for Halo.
Now, final question about this.
Yes.
Is this an event exclusive game mode, or is this just now added to the roster?
We'll see. I mean, they just added, so Fiesta was brought in for Fracture Ken Ryan, and it was just added to the playlist. Okay, so I'm assuming the same thing for attrition.
That would have been I'm not playing the game, but that would have been a pretty big issue if they remove variety.
Yeah, I'm assuming that when the event ends, it'll just become a staple.
Yeah, so. as it should.
Yeah.
Well, that's your fucking weekly check-in. Thank you for watching, everyone. Now it's time to talk about more horse shit. Oh, I have 3. How'd that happen? Oh well. This will work out perfectly. It'll work out fucking phenomenally. Because I believe it or not, have been on a kick of trying out PlayStation 4 exclusives. So I finished Knack, and much like jumping from The Order to Detroit, but unlike Detroit, I hopped to The Last Guardian, which is a part of the PS Plus collection that comes available with PS Plus on PlayStation 5. So I gave the game a try, and if you've watched the trailer for The Last Guardian, you know exactly what The Last Guardian is like. Yeah. There's no surprises in this game. And I probably only played like 3 hours of it, but I have stopped, not because the game isn't interesting, not because it's not unique, not because I wasn't enjoying my time with it, but because I feel like I understand what the game is. I don't feel like I'm going to get frankly much more out of it. Maybe some story points that I'm not aware of, maybe a couple mechanical complexities that haven't happened yet, but not enough to make me want to play it for another 7 or 8 hours or whatever it would take for me to finish the game. This game is, if you're not familiar with The Last Guardian, you play as a very small young boy teamed up with an absolutely ridiculously large cat, bird, dog creature named Trico. And you and your buddy Trico...
No relation. To other
you?
Trico.
Come on.
Not to me, right? I'm not related to Trico in any way, shape, or form.
No, and you and Trico are making your way through the environment because you're kind of the only people left in the area, and you're trying to get somewhere. It's unclear where you're going because much in Team Eco style, the story is very light. It is very atmospheric. It's very intended for you to drink in the environment and take bits and pieces from what dialogue you are given, what murals are on the walls, what the environments are telling you, and piece together the story, which is a very interesting and unique style of storytelling, of gameplay. It's very laid back in that regard. And I think the game is very good. It is very interesting from a design perspective. The way that you are interacting with Trico and his AI is very complex in that he will sometimes listen to you, sometimes not. He interacts with the environment in emergent ways, and he's always doing his fun little animations of scratching himself or sniffing things. And he's a very alive character. He's a very alive creature. And obviously that's what this game is intended around. Everything in this game is based around Trico. Your traversal, the puzzle solving, the combat, the design of the levels, it's all Trico based, and that's very unique. It's a very interesting way to combine the hand-holding, sort of, what's the word for having to take care of someone through a mission? Of course, it's an obvious thing, but
Yeah, an escort mission.
An escort mission, yes. Because the hand-holding, the literal hand-holding and escort mission nature of Eco and the climbing mechanics on monsters from Shadow of the Colossus, those are meshed together very nicely in The Last Guardian, because you are going along with the creature, but you are climbing Trico fucking constantly. And let me tell you, this little boy has the strongest grip of any video game character ever. If I needed someone to hold me as I'm falling off a cliff, I asked this fucking boy to do it, because he will not let go ever. If you are holding on to something, this motherfucker just stays steady. If Trico is fucking going like this boy's going, but he does not let go, because he's a fucking steadfast man, and I appreciate that. But so the climb mechanics are solid. It's a little bit rubbery. You're kind of have to shift yourself around the body of a creature, so it's not perfect, but it makes sense in context. And you're solving these very naturally designed environments of how are you going to get from one area to another. Trico can't get to this door because it's closed. Okay, you got to go around it. You got to figure out a way to get him over. You got to call him over, that kind of thing. And the game is gorgeous. These environments are really beautiful. But everything I've just explained to you is what the game is. And I kind of feel like that's it. Which is to say, it's a very good game. It's a very interesting game. It's a very unique game. But I don't necessarily find myself compelled by all these elements and the way they come together to complete it.
Yeah, I just don't like Team Ico's games. I don't like Shadow of the Colossus. I started Last Guardian because of the PS Plus collection. I was like, nah.
I didn't know about that, actually.
I just know this isn't for me. I love the art direction of Team Ico's work, but the game, I need my game to be a little bit more playable than the sort of stuff they make.
Sure.
So I think Trico's cool.
He's a very fun character. It's some of the best animal, probably the best animal AI that's ever existed in a video game.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just wait till you get to the dog and fish AI in Call of Duty Ghosts. The game
fish AI?
Yeah.
I know they. Wait.
Yeah,
like it's AI. I know that there were fish, but they have AI.
Yeah, like if you're swimming underwater, like they swim away from you. Yeah.
Oh, what?
Tucker, hit me in the fucking game.
No, actually. You're gonna do one more, and then I'm gonna do a double hitter.
Oh, okay.
These next two games need to be paired together.
Okay, Tucker, I'm gonna talk about what is probably the weirdest game I've ever played in my entire life, and also the last game in recent memory that I've played that I would give, as I did on Backlog, 5 stars to. And really? that is Killer is Dead. 5 stars. Yeah, I think
this is a masterpiece.
Yeah, it's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece, and with all of Sue's stuff, it's a masterpiece in the sense that if you like it,
it's not.
If you like it, you love it. If you don't, you probably think the game is bad, and everybody's right. Yeah. But for me, this is a 5-star video game. Mm-hmm. This is a game in which you play as this is a game in which you play as a government-sanctioned hitman who is also a gigolo, who also has an alien arm.
Yeah, of course. When he gets a good part.
And in Killer is Dead, you're basically completing.
Is your name Killer?
No.
Damn it. Fuck.
Unfortunately not. You're completing hits for the government, basically.
Yeah.
What else would you do? Right. Well, or you're doing like gigolo sex missions, which are very weird.
Sure. Yeah. Of course.
But you're doing the first hit, for instance, and I won't spoil anything else. Actually, I'm going to spoil one of the last ones because it's really funny. You go to this house to kill a monster.
Yeah.
But the entire house morphs into an Alice in Wonderland facsimile, and the final boss
in like a fairy tale art style, like fucking little mushroom.
Yeah, and like the house. Yeah, and the house becomes like an abstraction, and in the color palette of Alice in Wonderland, and you meet Alice, and you fight a.
Oh, like literally.
Like literally.
Oh, okay.
And then you fight a big titty Alice monster, broken neck head creature, and there's blood all over the place.
Yeah, okay. Now I'm getting into it.
The game is indescribable.
Sure.
At one of the last missions, you fight a sentient train, and it begins with dialogue about how men love trains and women can't conduct trains because they don't have the masculine passion and love of trains that men do.
And you know what? This is a game for Timo Nelson. I know you don't use Snapchat, but
Yes.
he sent us a Snapchat today of a video of a train. He's like, dude, I love trains. He's doing that fucking Timo voice that he does.
Killer is Dead is outrageous.
Yeah.
And it's nonsensical. My backlog review says I have no idea what just happened. That's the entire review.
Yeah. You should write more reviews like that for Ninty Fresh.
The game is like
get paid fucking $80 or whatever you goddamn do.
It's metaphysical, it's thematic,
sure,
it's nonsensical.
Yeah.
And I think that makes it fun. On a gameplay level, the game is a hack and slash. It's a character action game, but it doesn't have a lock on. It doesn't have a real combat tree. It is a very simple character action game that is incredibly stylish. This, like Suda's other work, is carried by your willingness to be in the world.
Sure.
And want to engage.
And whenever I know you well enough to know that when you can be a gigolo, when you can fight a big titty monster, there's nothing more in this world that you want.
No.
You want to be in that world. You wish that was yourself. You will fall asleep and dream about that tonight.
Yes, Killer is Dead is my happy place.
Yeah.
But if you can buy into the game, the game where your health bar is represented by diamonds and you have a blood meter that you can use to mill to shoot things out of your Mega Man cannon alien arm,
sure,
then you're going to love Killer is Dead.
Yeah.
The game can be beaten in probably 5 hours. It is digestible. It is indescribable.
Yeah.
And it is one of the happiest actions I've ever had. I just bought it off the back of Pat's sale because it's a soda game. I knew nothing about it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was terrific. For me.
Yeah,
for,
no,
for other people, probably not, because I can point out a laundry list of flaws, but I don't really care to, because that's not really my experience. This is not a review show. This is a me talking about myself show. And for me, Abram Buhner, Killer is Dead is a 5 out of 5 masterpiece. And I'm going to be playing Killer 7 very soon. Completely unrelated, by the way, on Steam, because it's on sale for $6 on Humble Bundle. So that's an offer I could not refuse.
Sure, yeah, it'll be interesting to hear you play a PC game.
Play Killer is Dead, unless you don't want to, then don't, because you probably wouldn't like it.
Me or just people in general?
Just people in general.
Sure, okay.
But also don't watch any trailers.
I don't know anything about the game yet, except for what you've told me just now. So, all right. Another weird game, a game that I played that you recommended to me.
Where is he going? What is he doing? I don't know what I genuinely do not know a game I recommended to him. I don't even know what box he picked up.
You fucking talking to the audience without me?
I was.
You're not allowed to do that.
Sorry.
That I found for $6 at a place called Entertain Mart.
Oh, okay.
Extra shit.
Sure.
Henry Hatsworth in the Puzzling Adventure for Nintendo DS, which is a game that you had recommended to me at one point. And when I find it in fucking phenomenal condition, complete in box for $6, I snapped that shit up fast in the day as long. You know what I'm saying? Except for it wasn't $6, it was $12. I don't know why the sticker on it said 6, but they charged me 12 for it, which is still a good deal. I'm not really complaining, but I have the sticker. It says $6 on it. I don't know why they charged me 12. But so this is a game you've played as well, right? You can talk a little bit about it.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I have played for a long time, but the gimmick is it's a DS game, of course. So
the gimmick is that it's a DS game.
What's interesting about it is that unlike in most DS games, where the top screen and the bottom screen are usually some kind of harmony, or where usually the action happens on one screen and the bottom screen is usually secondary information. This is a game in which both screens are operating. They're intrinsically tied to each other, but they're doing very different things. Yes. You're playing a 2D action platform on the top screen. And when you defeat enemies, they jump to the bottom screen. And on the bottom screen, you're playing like a block puzzler. And you have to clear out that screen. So
you're playing Tetris Attack. You're playing Panel to Pawn. I believe it's a very similar, if not identical style. So that is the basic premise of Henry Hatsworth. By the way, made by EA. By the way, made by the team who's made Madden since 1996. I don't know what the fuck happened to have this game for the DS come out of the Madden team. Like I was doing the research. And I'm like, there's no way this is true, and it just is. They just made this game for whatever fucking reason. This is obviously a very unique game. The concept of combining two very disparate gameplay styles and meshing them in some sort of harmony and connection is fascinating. It very much utilizes the DS's dual screen hardware and touch screen capabilities to try something different. And good Lord, do I respect it for that. This is the kind of game that the DS was made for, and that most games didn't take advantage of, because it's very hard to design a game like this. It's very hard to step out of the realm of, okay, we're making a puzzle game or an action platformer. No, fuck you. We're doing both at the same time. But I think this game is interesting. I don't necessarily think it's actually good, though. I've enjoyed to a certain extent what I've played of it. I think both elements are quality, but they're not very unique on their own. And I don't think they're tied together enough, the action platformer and the puzzle game, to make me feel like it's creating a wholly new experience. Because what you end up doing is action platforming, as Mr. Henry Hatsworth himself, Sir Henry Hatsworth, excuse me, I just don't want to get the formalities correct. Platforming through these levels, beating up little fucking blob creatures, and then as you defeat them, they enter the bottom screen. They infect one of the blocks, and you have to clear those blocks before they reach the top of the screen, or else the monsters come back to haunt Henry, and you have to fight them again. And in the bottom screen, no matter what you're doing on the top screen, is always moving up and up and up. So you have to constantly be aware of what's going on the bottom screen and press X to switch between them and clear out some blocks, and then you can return. The problem comes in that, well, this sounds like interaction in concept. In reality, you do the platforming until the screen is filled up, then you play a puzzle game for 2 minutes.
Sure.
And that's about it. And sometimes the blocks will have a hard power up that'll heal Henry. If you fill up this meter, you can turn into his fucking T robot, which is pretty funny. But that's really the extent of the connection. And so what it really felt like to me is playing a totally serviceable but not very interesting 2D action platformer for 2 minutes, and then being like, oh, the fucking little blocks are coming up at the top of the screen. Time to play a totally serviceable but not very unique match 3 block puzzler for a few minutes, and rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
And that's about it. The art design is great. It's got this nice colorful, like sort of orange, blue, red, yellow color palette to the blocks. Henry himself is a very funny little British guy who speaks in gobbledygook, a la Animal Crossing, Banjo-Kazooie, Star Fox sort of thing, but way more annoying than any of those. You're talking to this little kid whose name is fucking Corey or Colin or some shit, and he goes, "Oi, come down, oi, come down." It's really fucking obnoxious, and it's sent to the fucking DS sound compression, so it's even more annoying. Yeah. But there's not a lot of dialogue in the game, so it's not a huge problem. It's ridiculous in concept. And in the story concept, it's ridiculous in execution. But that ridiculousness is what fuels the entire thing. The gameplay isn't compelling enough, frankly, to warrant being like a 15-hour adventure.
It's that long?
Yes, it is a very long game, because as I've heard, not that I've experienced this personally, but it gets exponentially more complicated or more difficult. Like more enemies are coming at you. The fucking bottom screen is progressing faster, and frankly, I don't think I have the bandwidth to deal with like retrying these very long levels over and over again to push through the end of this. But I'm glad I gave it a try. It's very unique, but I can't say I recommend it unless you're that those gameplay styles excite you. They fucking titillate you enough to really dig into them. Yeah. But there's not that much to dig into, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I'll defer to you on that, because it's been a long time since I played it. It was really the concept and characters stuck in my mind opposed to the actual design of it. So
yeah,
probably why there's never a Henry Hatsworth 2.
Yeah, well, I guess they could have done one on the 3DS, but now that's dead. So there's especially no room for Henry Hatsworth fucking 2.5 or whatever.
They should have done a 3D Henry Hatsworth platformer, then you put a 3D Tetris, like top-down Tetris
Eltris? Yeah, sure. And now my final game of the week is I can do a little more prop comedy. The reason I paired these two together is because this got me in the mood to sort of look at my handheld game libraries. And I came up with...
He's gonna pull out the Killzone PSP game, but don't tell him I told you that. Be surprised, okay? Be surprised. In 3, 2, 1, be surprised.
I'm surprised. Look at me. I came up with Me and My Katamari for PSP. Oh. What? Cool. What is it?
Never mind.
Does that actually shock you? Is there actual interest there? Or is that
Yeah.
are you just feigning?
No, when you edit the episode, you'll see. I let our audience a foul.
All right. So me and my Katamari is a Katamari game. The gameplay of Katamari has pretty much not changed in the 6 or 7 entries that the series has. And I'm very experienced with Katamari. I have played through Katamari Damacy multiple times. I played through Reroll a couple of times. I've played We Love Katamari, a little bit of Katamari Forever. I would have played a little bit of Beautiful Katamari, but my Xbox 360 is a little son of a bitch. So fucking.
So this one was new to you.
This one was new to me, like 90%, because I'd actually started this game when I bought it for my PSP. My PSP actually used to be really weird, and save files would corrupt, and so I just kind of haven't used my PSP in years. But I decided to like give it a look, my PSP a look. I factory reset my PSP, so there's actually I don't think there's any issues anymore. And start this game, and it's very interesting. It is a handheld Katamari game, and so the levels are sort of condensed and structured very slightly differently to account for that. And the main difference of this game comes from the fact that there are there's one, but there's no real analog sticks on the PSP. So you're thinking, okay, Katamari, the main thing about that is you use both the analog sticks and you're flicking back and forth and controlling the camera that way. But this uses the face buttons and the D-pad. And when you first play this game, you're like, these are not as good as analog sticks. And guess what? They aren't. There's no way to properly emulate full directional 2-stick control on a system that only has like half a joystick, because the PSP joystick is terrible. But as I adapted to using the face buttons and pressing them in combination to control, I adapted to the controls pretty quickly, and this is a very solid, pretty much on the same level of design Katamari game as all the other ones I played. Which is to say, if I beat it, probably one of my favorite games of all time, because the Katamari world and style and music and characters and visuals are just top tier Japanese wackiness, and this is just another solid continuation of that franchise, which I hold so dearly.
Yeah, that's really cool. Katamari, like I've only played Reroll, and I liked Rerolled. I found the controls a little bit hard to get my head around.
Sure.
But
something that takes a little bit of experience.
I want to give it another shot for sure.
Sure.
But I want you to report back on this one once you finished it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
was a threat. You need to make the promise.
I'm probably 40% of the way through this game.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell because unlike previous Katamari games, or at least Katamari Damacy, the levels are selected from a little planet that you're traveling around. So the globe fills in with little star points as you complete it. But this game takes the concepts of Katamari games are always entirely ridiculous. But in this one, the king of all cosmos and his family are on vacation, and the king goes a little bit too crazy, and he does like a cannonball, and he washes away all the islands in the surrounding area. And he's like, shit, guess I gotta fix this. So of course, why would he do anything? No, he sends you, his son, out to fix his shit, roll up Katamaris, and he uses the royal puff to turn them into islands. So you are hanging out on these few islands that have survived, and the animals will come up to you and be like, hey, I'm a turtle. My island is gone. I really would like to have a home. I'd like to have a hard island. So that's the first level of the game. So you go through a Katamari level and you pick up things that are hard to build a Katamari and make the turtle happy. So at the end of the level, the king will give you a score and it's like, this is how hard Katamari is, or soft, or warm, or fucking whatever the animal in question wants. And then he turns it into an island, and it's the same thing as making stars in Katamari 1 or whatever the fuck it was in We Love Katamari. But that small tweak gives it its own flavor of this small tropical island where the save pool is the save place is a hot springs, and there's a little merry-go-round, and all your cousins are housed on a beanstalk island. It's very visually charming. It's fun to meet the animals and see what their problem is, and they all talk in little funny ways. Like there was some Australian animal that was talking in a little Australian accent, and he's like, I don't fucking know, whatever. And so I have no complaints with this game. The getting over the hump of the controls is really the only thing that holds us back from being just as good as everything else. But I have gotten over the hump, and I still recognize that there's not as good of control. Right. But they did their best, frankly. You could not have done better with the hardware that this game is on.
Sure.
Good
fucking
for them.
Keita.
My boy Keita Takahashi, who made me internet famous for one day.
Yes, he retweeted you. I think that means you're friends now.
Yeah. Basically.
Yeah. You want to do a little speed round of our audience submissions before I got to skedaddle?
Yeah, well, I'll let you skeed.
You let me skeed?
Yes.
But before I skied, we've got we've got 3 here. We got a couple of essays. Oh boy, we actually have a lot here.
Yeah, because Sam did a lot.
Yes, he did. Oh boy. Okay. Well, we'll start with Sam here. It says, since the last time I submitted, I 100% at Death's Door. Good game. The encounters that just consisted of throwing waves of enemies in an enclosed space, like the Avarice chest, were frustrating at times. I agree, because I felt a little too bullet helly for my taste, but the boss fights were all primo and extremely satisfying. I wish there was a bit more of a reward for completing the post game, but at least having one extra boss was nice. Then he writes, I also beat Steamworld Dig 2. I was a little underwhelmed at first because it didn't feel that different from the first game. To be fair, I hadn't played Dig 1 in many years, so maybe I just forgot. Once I got more upgrades and mobility opened up, I enjoyed it a lot. Both Digs have such a satisfying gameplay loop, and this one felt truly great to play once I got the grapple hook. Also loved the freedom in the cog system, being able to swap upgrades out really easily. My only complaint was that it didn't really feel like it gave me any motivation or desire to 100% the game, like some other Metroidvanias that I love, but that's a very minor complaint. It's pretty subjective to me.
Yeah, let's just take the opportunity to talk about how fucking amazing Steamworld Dig 2 is, because him talking to this game, I'm just sitting on my mind like, oh god, I love this game so fucking much. Steamworld Dig 2 is one of my favorite games of all time. I squarely believe it's one of the premier indie games that I've ever played, and it's one of the few games that I ever consider replaying. I never have, but the fact that I consider it is a fucking bonus point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, this game has not stuck in my memory basically at all since I played it.
Okay.
I mean, I liked it a lot. I think it's nothing short of very good. I think the cog system, as Sam was talking about, is certainly a highlight there. It's a very flexible game, and like the grapple hook, it does give you a lot of options in terms of movement, and the sort of ability to make your own map in essence as you're digging it is quite compelling. Maybe if the game was a little bit longer, it might have stuck with me a little bit more. I think it ends up feeling it's probably the right length for what it is. Yeah. But it doesn't feel like there's enough. It wasn't enough for me to grab onto to really love it, I suppose.
Interesting. Yeah. And I mean, I can understand that. Yeah. That's my first thought. Not only because I think that game is phenomenal, and I think that there's room to grow because it's a huge improvement over Steamworld Dig 1, which is also one of my favorite games of all time. But adding more options for your upgrade system, adding more movement abilities, adding greater level of variety, a little more in-depth story. It is a categorical improvement over Steamworld Dig 1 in almost every way, and I do think that the team can do more, frankly.
Yeah, I think it's sort of thing where they probably polish the mechanics of it about as polished as they can be. But this is a sort of framework that I think needs a bigger adventure. Sure. Right. And so I don't ever think we'd get a retail release Steamworld game, but I think something of a little bit more substance might let those mechanics reach their conclusion. When I think that maybe they didn't quite do that in Steamworld. I think it whet my palate quite well, but let's talk about a game that my palate has never experienced, Tucker, and that's another game Sam mentions, which is, well, I'll let him say it. I returned to a DS tower defense game that I got way back in 2010 called Locke's Quest. Pretty interesting ideas, probably not going to finish it. Shit's surprisingly tough, but it's also just time consuming. I like that instead of a set number of waves, it just gives you a timer and keeps throwing enemies at you until it runs out. It feels more like you're surviving an invasion instead of just watching a wave number count down. Also, as a little mini game where you have to build a new tower type from some puzzle pieces when you unlock them, that's fun. But yeah, no real intention of finishing that soon.
Have you heard of this one?
I've never heard of this game.
Yeah, I just remember when I was talking to him about he was interested in getting back into playing his DS because he fucking found it in a drawer or whatever. He was like, one game I played a bunch when I was a kid was Locke's Quest. I'm like, what the fuck is Locke's Quest?
It's developed by Fifth Cell, the Drawn to Life team.
Or
wait, no, Scribblenauts team. Yeah, no, Scribblenauts. THQ. Well, THQ publishes this game, which is where I got confused because THQ publishes Drawn to Death. But
that's and a team of other classics. THQ is a renowned company.
That's a team of repute. I thought that I kind of thought this was kind of like a shovelware throwaway. Had it as a kid because your parents didn't know better, just bought you a game type of deal. But Fifth Cell is a good team.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have that much experience with tower defense style games, Bloom's notwithstanding. But I don't know if maybe you can lend me his copy and I'll give it a try. We'll see.
Well, Tucker, let's talk about one more Steamworld game before we get out of Sam's hair for a second, or he gets out of ours. I think it's more likely.
Well, there's hair flying everywhere.
Finally, I started my second playthrough of Steamworld Heist. Fucking fantastic game, one of my favorites. Love the characters, love the aesthetic, love the difficulty curve. Make an XCOM style game where you manually aim the weapons instead of just rolling dice was genius.
I have no experience with the Heist variety of Steamworld.
I have actually played Heist. I played a lot of it back on 3DS. It is something I've never experienced otherwise, which is a 2D turn-based strategy game. Sure. And in the what I love about Steamworld is such a...
I'm joking. I know it's very different.
It's a really flexible IP. I actually have a copy of Quest that I got from my aunt, which I've never played. I would like to give that a shot because it's a great IP. And I'm very excited for the sort of shooter that they're making next. They announced earlier this year. So they're in a good Image and Form, which is a great fucking team.
They really are. This brings us to our good friend Andrew of My Star Wars Show fame, who I think is just talking about one game here, but he talked about it quite a bit. He says, for the last week, I have been playing Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, a 2020 game that got mild praise but didn't exactly set the game and world on fire. It's essentially a complete story recap of the entire Dragon Ball Z storyline from when Raditz first arrives up to the Majin Buu saga. The game is an action RPG where you play as the various Z fighters, Piccolo, Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, etc., in a large open world that is sequestered into separate regions on Earth and planet Namek. When you're not fighting the major story battles from the anime, you are flying across the map, collecting Z orbs, which are used to upgrade your attacks and abilities, fishing, so Timo knows it's a good game, and triggering random fights with generic enemies such as Frieza's grunts, deadly weapon, deadly robots, generic Cybermen, etc. During intermissions, the free open periods between story arcs, you are free to customize your party with the Z fighters serving as assist characters that you don't control directly. You can search Earth for the Dragon Balls and wish for various things like rare items to refight past antagonists for I think I don't think he meant to put two there.
He's just giving examples of things you can do.
Oh, I guess you can wish to refight past antagonists for experience points. Sure, okay, that makes sense. The game isn't amazing, but it does feel like the most fully fleshed out and realized Dragon Ball Z game that we've had in a long time. It manages to stick very close to the show's canon. I'm past the halfway point in the Android Saga portion and having a key blast with the game. Little fucking Dragon Ball pun there. Yeah, so this is a game that I've been interested in, but I'm probably never going to play it because it doesn't look very good. It doesn't look like I played it very good. It didn't review very well. But it is the closest. Yeah, it doesn't really mean much. It's got an IP attached to it. But it is the closest realization of the ultimate Dragon Ball experience of exploring the world, finding the Dragon Balls, fighting the fights, following the story, all of that people have wanted. So I can understand why there's a draw to it for Dragon Ball fans. And I've had that inkling of I should try the fucking game sometime. It'd kind of be real fucking fun to play through these fucking sagas. But I never have. And I've never will.
I don't know anything about Dragon Ball, so I don't care. But I will say that this is kind of like the premier way to do a licensed game. I think that's going to tie into source material like this. If you're not going to do the parallel release of here's Force Awakens and Battlefront, so just same IP but completely unrelated products. If you're going to remake an entire saga of Dragon Ball scale, this seems to be the way to do it because I know that the fan response was actually quite good to Kakarot. So
yeah.
Good for you. I don't know Dragon Ball
for me.
Kamehameha.
Yeah. Do you know what Kakarot means?
No,
that is,
and I don't want to know. Don't tell me. All right, let's do the last comment and get the fuck out of here for the day. How about that?
Finally, you know what I'm saying?
Last comment comes from Abby, who says, I finished God of War and it's phenomenal. I want to first start by saying it's a great PC port and looks super good. The story had me hooked from the start with the stranger fight and it showed off the no-cut cinematics of the game. I think the gameplay is pretty straightforward and to me it was too shallow, but I also didn't fully understand the RPG system. I think the system was a bit half-baked, but the story is phenomenal. So many twists and turns, and I love the use of, well, he meant to say gods. He wrote GIFs, so then you put a GIF.
I did.
A little bit of typo humor for the audience.
Yeah.
There. But
we like typo humor.
I think Abby unlocked in my mind what was missing from me God of War. I think that combat just doesn't I don't know if it's shallowness, but by the way, the RPG's systems are not deep, so you didn't really miss out on anything there.
Yeah,
it's really just upgrading.
That's certainly the weakest aspect of the game.
But I don't know. I'll be curious to see. It looks like Ragnarok really isn't doing a whole hell of a lot. It's obviously been in the game carried by its narrative and its presentation and everything. I think the gameplay just wasn't quite there for me. So I resonate with that for you, Avi. But really, the main takeaway here is that it's a great PC port. The port's been in works for a while. So I'll be very curious to see how it sells, because this could be this could be the one, even more than Horizon, which sold quite well, that tells Sony that this is what we need to do. We need all of our games on PC, right? We're getting the Uncharted or the Uncharted Thieves collection, whatever, in a little bit.
Legacy of Thieves collection? No, it didn't come out on PC today. It came out on PS5 today.
Yeah, PS5. I don't care.
But for some reason, it's not releasing simultaneously. It's releasing close to simultaneously, but not completely. What the fuck? What the fuck? I don't know. PCs can't run those fucking games. They're PlayStation games, so that's special. But yeah, so it's interesting that, I mean, obviously he agrees with you to a certain extent about God of War, and you weren't able to push through with the multiple times that you've tried it, which, you know what, I hold greatly against you, and it lulls me to sleep every night of my hatred for that. But it is interesting that regardless of that, he was able to push through, whether that is his more engagement to the story, more engagement because it's quality of the PC port, who knows? But I don't know. I disagree about the combat being unsatisfying. I think that obviously the game is held on its presentation and its story and its fidelity and all that, but the combat is also one of the things that people praise most about the game. And so, I mean, I don't know. I found it to be compelling enough to play through the game in like a week or whatever. But you know, that's just different folks for different strokes. You know what I'm saying?
I think it just takes. I think if Kratos could just lop a guy in half, I like the game more.
But you gotta kill. You mean?
Yeah, or closer to it, because people are spongy in God of War. So I think it's certainly a personal preference. But I've tried the game 3 times, and I think that's at the nexus of my issues with it.
Yeah, sure. Ending it on God of War always a great way to end an episode.
Yeah.
Which means we never had a good episode before, because we never had an episode of God of War.
Tanner brought it.
Did he? No, he didn't end that episode though. It was in the middle. So that episode was even worse, actually.
Well, Tucker, we set on the precipice of maybe no episode next week.
Yeah. Yes, because all we're going to be playing is fucking Pokemon, frankly.
Yeah.
Quite frankly.
Yeah. So we'll see. There might be an episode, there might not, but there'll be a lot of Pokemon coverage.
Yes. I can't wait. Holy shit. This is the only time we're going to be able to talk about it, because we don't have a dedicated Legends video, pre-hype video, but those fucking reviews are looking damn good. And what I'm hearing about it is very exciting to me. And frankly, the only issue appears to be that the game isn't very impressive technically. And that's exactly what I fucking expected. So we're going to have this game in our hands in a couple of days. You followed me on Backlogged 20 days ago.
Yeah, because I was unfollowed.
What do you mean?
Like I went on your page. I thought you blocked me for some reason. Like I thought you were trying to keep something secret. Because I have been following you for forever on Backlog.
I assumed.
Yeah, but then I opened it up one day and I was no longer following you.
I feel like the more likely thing is you had like your fucking eyes blanked over. You went on Backlog and just like you were furiously deleting as much shit as possible, and you just happened to like unfollow me. You're like, I hate this, and you fucking slam your monkey hands against your computer. Sounds like I hit a fucking nerve.